Namaste and hello once again. Today I'll be talking about psychological testing, why psychological tests are important in the field of psychology, how it benefits both the guidance and counseling as well as for the subjects. So, what is a psychological test? First and foremost, it is something which is objective and it is standardized. So, this type of tool we use to measure our differences. All of us are not the same, right? We have our own strengths, our own weaknesses, our own interests, our own aptitudes. So, this we need to know as a psychologist. What are the individual differences among people? And psychological tests are tools to measure these differences in behavior and mental abilities. So, psychological tests measure different attributes of persons like intelligence, aptitude, personality, interests and values, and achievement, whether it's educational achievement, professional achievement, and so on. Aptitude tests, as you know, are used in companies to see if the particular person who has applied for the job is right for the job, or even in entrance exams for students. So basically, we use aptitude tests for selection and job recruitment, then placements in appropriate roles in big organizations, and for training program design. Now, once the employee joins the organization, we need to train the employee to upgrade his or her skills. And we need to know what help that particular employee needs in what aspect. So it helps in training programs and guidance and counseling. The counselor um, is using these tests to know more about the person who has come for counseling or the counselee. So, what aspect the counselee needs extra help, and it's also used in clinical diagnosis to know what kind of disorder the person falls into. And these tests are basically used in schools and colleges, schools to know what help the student needs, what extra guidance in colleges, so that after college we can help the students to find their aptitude and what further education suits them. It's used in guidance clinics by counselors, as I mentioned earlier. It's used in industries and corporations, also in defense organizations. So there are some particular characteristics of psychological tests. First and foremost is objectivity. Now, these psychological tests need to be objective in the sense whatever results, once I take up the test, my score or result should be consistent regardless of who administers the test for me. So, it requires that the questions in the test are very clearly worded, because whoever takes the test, there are thousands or lakhs of people who may be taking an IQ test, right? So each person who takes the test should be able to understand it correctly, understand each question the way it's meant to be. So for that, the questions have to be clearly worded, simple language, no jargons. Then the instructions must be fixed, and predefined scoring system should also be set so that your test is objective. And another characteristic is standardization of the tests. So test administration conditions are fixed. One best example for this is the exams that we take. There's an examination hall where all of us are seated. The question paper is standardized in the sense We are all in the same environment, in the same exam hall, the same time limit, and the instructions are given in the question paper itself. It's the same instructions for all of us, and the scoring or evaluation is also the same for all of us. So this can be administered individually or in groups. Any psychological test for that matter can be administered individually or in groups. And another characteristic is systematic construction. It has to be very systematic when we frame the test, the different questions that we frame. So these tests undergo rigorous development involving item analysis. What's an item? The questions in the questionnaire or the test are called items. So they have to be analyzed. Each question or item is analyzed before it is administered to anyone. And establishing of reliability and validity should be done, and we have to develop norms. I'll tell you more about these in class in detail. So what is reliability? Consistency over time. So when a psychological test is developed, the scores must be consistent for me when I take up a particular test. For example, an aptitude test. I take up an aptitude test, and if I take up the same aptitude test next week, my score should be the same or almost the same. So that is reliability, the consistency of the scores. There are two types of reliability. One is test retest reliability, which is the same test given to the same group or the same individual after a particular time gap. The scores will correlate to show stability, temporal stability or consistency. It will be almost the same or the same because it's the same test which is given. Another type of reliability is split half reliability. Here the test is divided into two equal halves. We have um, odd numbers of questions and even number questions. So we calculate the scores for the odd numbers, calculate the scores for the even numbers, and if they're almost the same, the scores, then it shows a good internal consistency. I will speak more about this in class. I will explain in detail. Then there is something other than reliability, which is very important for tests, which is validity and norms. So validity means, does the test measure what it claims to be measuring? For example, a mathematics test should measure my math aptitude or math ability and not my language skill. So the questions that are framed should be in such a way in simple language that I understand the questions and I'm able to solve the problems, right? And norms represent average performance of a group. So when you conduct any exam or any test, academic tests and exams, we have to compare the individual's performance with the average performance of the group. And this is developed based on different factors that we consider, like the age. They should all be of the same age, all the participants, their gender, the location. All these have to be taken into consideration so that we can compare an individual score with the average score of the group and represent the scores or results meaningfully. There are many types of psychological tests. You may have also taken some. So they are categorized based on language, the way they are administered, and based on difficulty levels. So based on language, we have three types: verbal, non-verbal, and performance tests. So verbal tests use written language and they require the people who are taking the test to be literate people. They should be able to understand they should be able to read the question and understand. Non-verbal tests use simple symbols or pictures, and they're basically for people who are not literate, who cannot read. They should be able to understand the question based on symbols and pictures. And there are some tests called performance tests. They require object manipulation. So you have to perform a particular activity and the test scores are based on the way you perform the activity. Based on administration, we have group tests and individual tests. Individual tests are given one-on-one. They're very detailed, but one disadvantage is it's very time consuming to administer the test to each individual one at a time. So group test, we administer the test to the whole group at the same time. They're economical, but sometimes the results may not be accurate because they may not be motivated enough to give the right accurate answers. And we don't have enough time to clarify to each individual if they haven't understood or if they have not been motivated enough about the purpose of the test. Another category is tests based on difficulty. We have speed tests and power tests. Speed tests, as the name suggests, the time is fixed and equal difficulty items. All the questions in the speed tests are of equal difficulty. But power tests, there is no time limit as such, but the questions progress from easy to difficult. These test our ability, the power tests. With this, we come to the end of the topic psychological testing. I'll meet you again in the next video. Thank you.